Jalen Turner, very high on him. Chaos Williams, Lupi Godinez, so many big names. And it's a very impressive thing. And they've got some massive fights coming up. Of course, the big Brandon Moreno, Davison Figueiredo, 4th fight. Let's say hello to our first guest, Jason House, who's kind enough to join us in studio. He was here on Monday with his clients. Now he's in the hot seat. Hello, Jason. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Good to have you in. I appreciate it.
It's an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a seat, my friend.
Yeah.
This is great. You are a very busy man. I was actually surprised you were still here.
Yeah, my wife and I, we always take a few extra days in New York. It's her favorite place. So we hang out, go eat at our favorite spots, see a show.
And
so
did you see a show?
Yeah.
Which
good.
one?
We saw Moulin Rouge this time. It was actually really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where's home for you guys? Las Vegas?
Now it is, yeah.
And it used to be California.
Correct.
Why Las Vegas? Did you just feel like for the business it was better to be closer to the headquarters?
When the pandemic hit, it really kind of showed me the advantages of being in Las Vegas because we were there for like 2 straight months during that one period when they were doing all the Apex shows. And so I remember one night my wife just looked at me and she said, "Man, this is the right move." And I said, "Yeah, we need to do this." And so we sold our home in Cali and bought one in Vegas.
And are you happy with it?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was going over the roster, and I've said this on the show before. You employ one of my favorite people in MMA, the great Ed Cap. I mean, this guy is unbelievable at his job. He's your PR guy?
Yes.
Is that accurate? I don't want to sell him short. One of your fighters will win a fight. I will get a text within literally 10 seconds. Like, "Do you want him on the show?" I'm like, "You don't even know if he's available," but he's just relentless, and I love it. He sent me your roster. You represent over 300 UFC MMA athletes, correct?
Correct.
How is that possible? How do you have the mental capacity, the time, the energy? And I know you have other people who work for Iridium as well. But 300 is a massive number. Dare I say probably the biggest number in the sport?
Probably.
I don't see anyone coming close to that. How is that possible?
We've done a good job of growing horizontally as we're growing vertically.
Okay.
And we have a great staff here at the agency. Ed just does the PR and Jacob's handling the marketing with a few other marketing specialists, and Jeremy and Lance and Joe, which kind of really allows us to free up our time, if that makes sense. We have quite a few guys to handle that load.
300 though. Seems like a lot. How many in the UFC would you say off the top of your head, like of that 300?
I think it's like 110, 115.
Wow. That is, and is there a number that you're like, all right, we can't surpass this? I can't get to 400. I can't get to 500.
It really depends on what acquisitions we decide to make this year. If we, merge with other agencies or we partner with other agents, I think that really will determine that. A lot of our growth has been, partnering with other agents. So that's why it may seem like a lot as a number, but then when you think about it, we're bringing in the infrastructure to sustain that model.
And so are you considering partnering with more agents?
Always.
Always?
Always.
How is the business of MMA right now?
I think it's great.
Is it great?
Yeah.
Why is it great?
I think it's bigger than it's ever been. I think the ESPN platform is doing really well for the UFC. I think PFL is doing amazing, and Bellator is doing good on Showtime. ONE FC is coming to Amazon Prime, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah. So I think that it's a good time. I think the Fight Pass gives a lot of regional shows the opportunity for MMA, so that makes it really good.
So your history in the sport, it's been going back well over a decade, right? Yeah. And actually, in doing a little bit of research on you, a name popped up that I had not heard of in quite some time. A guy that I used to be quite close with, Ken Pavia.
Yes.
The new fans watch it. The ESPN fans, they don't know Ken Pavia. But the OGs know Ken Pavia. Yeah. So he's the reason why you got into this?
Yes, he actually spoke to my law school.
This is Ken Pavia, former MMA manager himself. Yeah.
Yes, he came to my law school the last semester of my last year in law school.
What school?
Whittier Law School in Costa Mesa, in Orange County, California. And I remember at the time being really torn on what I want to do with my life. Private sector didn't really fulfill me. The public sector wasn't doing it either. So when Ken came, it was kind of a godsend. I was like, yes, I want to do that.
Were you an MMA fan?
Yes, I was already, I think like 3 or 4 months prior, I'd gone to the BJ Penn Sean Sure card in Las Vegas. Yep. I was training jiu-jitsu with Jiva Santana at Team Oyama. So I was already entrenched in the sport. So when he came and, I must have called him 4 or 5 straight days in a row, like, hey, I intern for you, can I do anything? And, within 2 weeks later, or a few weeks later, I was at a UFC event with him working and
So you were working for MMA agents?
Yes.
And how long was that for?
Till I graduated law school that following May. Then I decided to go on my own.
Okay, and what were you, what was the kind of stuff that he was having you do in those early days?
Everything.
Everything.
He was just throwing me in the fire, like Anthony Johnson,
Yes,
rest
I
in peace.
I saw your post about it.
Anthony really resonates to me because he was one of the first people in the sport to really be kind to me and make me feel that I could do this. That weekend, I think it was UFC 92. Ken had to run an errand. He said, "Hey, will you stay here with Anthony Johnson? Make sure he's good. Stay here at the after party."
Because he repped him.
Because he repped him at the time.
Yeah.
And Anthony was just, I was so nervous, Harold. I had no business being there. You're talking, this is day 8 on the job.
Wow.
I don't know anything. And Anthony made me feel so at home. He asked me a lot of questions about myself and really gave me some good advice on how to handle athletes and clients and things that he really appreciated that Ken did that I should remember to do for my clients. And I'll just never forget it. Like, he really, if there's ever a moment you're like, man, this is what I'm supposed to do, I felt like it was in that moment.
So you realize, all right, this is where I want to be. These are the people I want to work with. But you also are a certified NFL agent too.
Correct.
When did that happen?
So in 2016, one of the marketing groups that I was working with, they started helping out NFL athletes. And they're like, "Hey, Jay, you should get into this. I think you'd be really good at it." So I took the test.
How tough is the test, by the way?
It was actually really hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it about the NFL?
That and a lot of salary numbers. It's a lot of math. It's a lot of law. It's a lot together.
Okay.
It's open book, but it's just so much that you're trying to, it's almost like trying to find everything within their little Bible of NFLPA management.
Okay, so you take the test.
I take the test, pass, start working with football players, and then the Contender Series starts in 2017. And we had a lot of initial success. Our agency's always been a grassroots of building athletes on the regional scene and getting them to the UFC. Then 2018 came and it grew even more. And then it became a point where I realized, man, do I want to fight for a market share in the NFL, maybe be a jack of all trades, master of none? Or do I stick with my passion, my calling, and go all in on MMA? And we decided to do MMA.
Okay. And so up until that point, at that point, your Iridium is off and running. When do you actually start Iridium? When does that launch?
So I graduated law school, I think like May 24th of 2009. I formed it August 20th of 2009.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're only with Ken for like a few
7 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was your first client?
My first client was LaRon Wilson. He was a heavyweight.
Okay.
He actually went to the same college that I went to. We had the same coach, and my coach put me in contact with him.
He wasn't a UFC fighter, correct?
No.
Who's your first UFC guy?
Ruben Duran.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And so now you've been doing it 13 or so years.
Yeah.
And that was something I wanted to ask you about because it does feel, and maybe there've been instances here or there, but like you're not the type of manager that is going to try to get guys who are rep by other guys. Like you're trying to get the guys coming up through the regional scene, LFA, build them up. Why that route as opposed to, oh, this dude's a big guy, let me try to, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like try to recruit him. And why do you go the former route?
I really enjoy the process. I think the reason we've been able to sustain the growth of our agency and the reason why we have so many clients is because we really are process oriented. And I think if you just focus on the process, the results take care of themselves. And I feel like, I was thinking the other day, like Bobby Green, like I was with him in a lot of his earlier fights in King of the Cage and stuff. And those are some of the best memories of my life, Harold.
Really?
Being on a local show with the fighter, going through those struggles of opponent changes and weight misses and travel and maybe not the best hotels and building them up and then getting that phone call. I just feel like if you're there with them every step of the journey, one, it's more meaningful, but two, that relationship that you build with them is just that much stronger, right? Because you've been there every step of the way with them. And so it's just how we started and it's how we've continued to be.
You mentioned the NFL process to get certified. Like, you don't pass that test. Like I can't be an NFL agent. I have to pass the test, right?
Correct.
I could be an MMA manager today.
Correct.
Right? Would you like to see a system like that in place so that, some random dude off the street can't just all of a sudden come in and poach one of your clients?
Definitely. I would love to see something like that. There's a lot of good managers in this business that really love and care for their athletes. And there are some managers, like you said, anyone can go hang a shingle up and say, hey, I'm a manager now. And maybe they don't have the proper qualifications. And the issue with our sport is that a fighter's career is so short, right? Like you can't afford to go 2 or 3 years in the wrong direction, right? Like you really have to make sure you start your career in the right direction and go that way. It's very hard to get second and third chances in this business.
How did you develop, one thing I always hear about you is you have a very good relationship with the UFC brass. Some managers don't, some do. but I always hear that you're, in very good standing with them. There's a science to that as well, right? That could be a tricky dance. Sometimes they like managers, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
How did you develop that good relationship? And in particular, I think it's with Sean and Mick, the matchmakers, but it seems like everyone at the UFC has a lot of respect for you. How did that happen?
Really, I just treat it like my marriage, right? I keep those discussions behind closed doors. I think one of the things that I learned on the football side was that anytime a negotiation went public, it didn't really end well, right? Ego gets involved, people are upset, things were said publicly. I've always tried to keep things behind closed doors, and that's not to say I don't get into it with Mick or Sean or Hunter or any of them, but I think if we keep it in a professional manner and keep it behind closed doors, it always maintains that relationship, because what you always have to keep in mind, this is the infinite game, right? This is a long-lasting relationship. That's probably a 20, 30, 40-year relationship for me, right? And so I have to treat it with that respect and care in every negotiation.
During the pandemic, there were guys falling out, come in, last minute, 3 days. How difficult was that, especially the early days? Because I know you would have sometimes guys like who would just come to Las Vegas and wait, right?
Yeah.
Just thinking, which was a brilliant move because things were, going crazy. But that must have been incredibly stressful as well. How difficult was it?
It was one of the best running gun times of my life.
Really?
We ended up getting like a 3-story home in Vegas, and we were flying out clients to stay with us.
Wow.
If there was 4 or 5, say 45ers on a card, and I had a 45,000, I'd bring them in and have them there ready to go. And I think, we had a lot of success during that time period, and we gave a lot of fighters opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have gotten if COVID had not happened. I think one that stands out to me that I think is one of the best stories in MMA is Julian Erosa. I mean, who gets a third shot in the UFC? And he was riding his bike to and from the gym, 20-odd miles. He was telling me he was making weight every Friday. And I remember he was the first person that took me out to eat when I moved to Vegas. I remember going home to my wife scared, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Bellator wasn't doing events at the time. PFL had canceled their season. Would Sean really give him a third shot?
Right.
And then 1 week, all the stars aligned, right? First guy's out, second guy's out. Man, I got Julian Erosa in town ready to go. He comes in, has an amazing fight. Now he's, 5-6-1 on this run? I mean, it's been so impressive. And so...
How does it work? Like, are you keeping tabs on all the news and have people telling you stuff, and you're calling the matchmakers and say like, yo, I got a guy who's here who can make weight? Or are they calling you like, yo, Jason, we've got a guy who just fell out, COVID, whatever. Yeah. Who do you have that's available? How does that work?
It goes both ways. We have... one of the things about MMA, it's a very public sport, right? These public gyms, you have access, you see, oh, there's an injury, there's this. So I try to always have the early lead on what is going on. And then, obviously Sean and Mick have seen that we're very reliable and always get the medicals and travel and everything done on time. And they'll call me and say, hey, we have an opening. Who do you have that's available? And so we always just try to keep our guys on deck, ready to go.
And so how many, like now it's a little weird with the Apex, but it's starting to open up a little more. How many events do you think you're going to a year, and how often are you traveling? Because I know you were just in Brazil.
Yeah.
Was that last week?
Last week.
You're here in New York. How often are you actually traveling?
Every week.
Every week?
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
No, not yet.
Do you want to have kids?
Yeah, I do.
Are you trying to get it out of your system now? Because at some point you're going to have to slow down, because you're probably going to have to slow down unless you're just one of those crazy people who,
You are asking the $1 million question, Ariel. And the truth is, like, I tell my wife, I'll bring the kid with me. And I'll,
so you have no plans of
let him explore the world and show him a different side of life. I'm just getting started.
Okay.
I'll never forget, I think it was like 2018 or 2019, Coach Safe pulled me aside and he said, you know what, Jason, you're doing really good. You had a really good year this year. But let me tell you something. If you really want to leave your mark here, you have to do it like 10, 12 years, like a Dan Gable, like a John Wood, and like a Kale Sanderson. And it really opened my eyes to what he was saying. And I always thank him for that, because it's the truth. I need to play the infinite game and leave a legacy here for these guys.
Wow. Okay. So even with your, man, I don't know. How old are you?
38.
Okay, so I'm not that much older. I get tired after like one trip. I need like a 2-month break after a trip. And you're going from Brazil to New York.
You've been a trailblazer, though, Ariel. I remember, one thing I really respect about you was your early days, and people don't tend to remember that. You were everywhere. You were hustling, and you were really building your brand. And you deserve everything you have now.
Thank you. And that's why I'm exhausted now.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you have the ability now where it's an honor for us to come on your show, right? And you don't have to do those things. And, but plus two, it's just hard. It's like every week is someone's moment, right? Every week, someone's in a different, chapter of their career. Like watching Chris Gutierrez get that win this weekend, I wouldn't have missed that for the world.
Right.
I know how much that young man has been through. I know how much growth he's had over the last 2 years. I mean, I remember downstairs when he came on the show, I was like, dude, I cannot believe I'm going to Ariel Helwani. Oh. Like if you'd have told me, he said, if you'd have told me this 5 years ago, I would have thought you're out of your mind. And so you never want to miss those moments. You want to be there for all of them. You know, Montel Jackson, we've been with him forever. Claudio Puelles, everyone that fought on that card. So Vaughn Juarez, we always want to be there for him and share those moments.
Do you feel guilty if you miss one? Because I'm sure some of these guys are like, yo, I saw you last week. And I know you don't probably, do you miss any, by the way?
One I missed was New Zealand of 2020. I had gotten what we believed to be as COVID the week before the world shut down. And I missed Jalen Turner and Tyson Nam's fight. And it irked me because I've been with Jalen since his very first pro fight. Right. And it killed me.
That's the only one you missed?
And that's only because I like my wife literally took me to the ER that night. Like it was literally like, you have to go. You're too sick. Like I could barely breathe. And I just couldn't get it going.
You haven't missed another fight of any of your clients?
Not in like 3 or 4 years. I mean, like I've gone every UFC event, I think the last 3 or 4
Even
years.
early, like what were you doing early days pandemic? Because they didn't let people, or were they letting managers go to those events, the Apex events?
Well, then like I said, I just got a house right next door to the Apex and I'd be right there. And you know what I mean?
That is amazing.
You know what I mean? I'd be delivering them food or doing grocery runs or just contributing however I can contribute. There's always something for you to do. You just have to find where the need is.
Wow. And so when you finally see a guy like Brandon Moreno, like reach the mountaintop, was he your first champ?
He was in the UFC, yes.
Yeah, in the UFC. What was that feeling like? Can you even describe that?
Oh man, that's probably one of the best nights of my life. Listen, I signed Brandon because of the good human he was. I had no idea where it was going to go, where it was going to take us, because at the time the flyweight division was being cut, right?
Right.
So I did it because he was my wife's favorite fighter that we didn't represent. You know, we've always loved him, and this journey's been surreal. It's been almost storybook, and you know, I'm so excited for this fourth fight with Figueiredo. I think you can agree with this. Like you need that dance partner. If you want to leave a legacy in the sport, you need that dance partner. And people are like, oh, do you like Figueiredo? I'm like, dude, I love them. I hope he's making a ton of money. I hope we're making a ton of money. And I hope these guys continue to make magic in the cage, because I think they needed each other for both their legacies. It's like Ali Frazier, right, of the flyweight division. These guys have really done a good job of that.
What was the vibe like in Brazil when you were there last week? Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, you can tell they're itching to have an event there, and you know, everyone's excited to see this fourth one go down. And you know, Rio is a mecca of sorts of MMA, of martial arts and jiu-jitsu, so it's great to be back down there.
So jealous you went to BB Sukos. Maybe you posted the picture, and I was like, people don't realize how much better it is over there. It's like a different food,
Brandon
right?
was like, he was like, Jason, you're getting me too excited, because I kept telling him, we got to go to BB. I was asking, how far is BB from here? Yeah. And then he was like, okay, this is actually really amazing. And I was like, I told you, right?
He never had it?
No.
Oh my God.
He's never had like true Brazilian. So I said, man, if we brought BB to America, it'd be.
Oh my God, yes.
changer.
Can you do that?
I'd love to.
Is that your next?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you don't have a lot of time on your hands, but I would love that. And I think it would do well in Las Vegas, considering all the fighters that are there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's like a short list of guys that I truly love in this sport. I have no problem saying that Chito Vera is one of those guys. He's just the coolest. I want to be him when I grow up. Like, he's just so cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is next for him? Because he's kind of in this weird spot here where I feel like he can get...
He's in a great spot. And, you know, I love to see a title in some way, shape, or form involved, whether we fight Sterling next or maybe we fight O'Malley for an interim title.
So it's all still up in the air right now?
It's all still up in the air. Okay. I think a lot of the questions that need to be answered is Cejudo coming back? If so, is he coming to bantamweight and fighting for that title? What Sterling's return time frame is. But Chito's ready to go. He's always ready.
What a huge star too. Like, I saw that footage of him in Ecuador. Yeah. I mean, he's a gigantic. I mean, if they could ever go there, I don't know if there's a venue big enough.
It would be insane.
It would be insane. Yeah. How did you sign him?
And this is actually a funny story. So my partner, Jeremy, flew to Albuquerque. I think it was for an RFA back then, where Yuli Gomez was fighting on it. Our client, Joby Sanchez, picks us up in his car at the airport to take us to the hotel. And Chito's in the car because he's training at Jackson's for the developmental program. And I guess he had lost all of his clothes. Like, his luggage got lost. He had no clothes. And so Chito had said something like, hey, like, what would a manager do? And Jeremy kind of joked back, well, a manager would make sure he gets some new clothes, and kind of the relationship formed. And, he moved with me to come live with me when he came to America at first, in London, after the London card in 2016. And, we've been best friends ever since.
You have a lot of fighters who stay at your place, right? Yeah. What is that like? Because I feel like, your poor wife, like, she's almost like having to take care of these guys, I feel like. Because the fighters, like, they're super tough, but sometimes, like, they're kind of like children too, right? Like, they don't really know how to, like, be...
a lot of people have said, like, don't get too attached to them. They'll burn you or they'll leave you. But I remember watching a documentary on Netflix where Doc Rivers said they told him the same things when he coaches. And he was saying, like, no, that he was going to love them and care for them and welcome them into his home as much as humanly possible. That way he has no regrets, right? He gave them everything he had. And that's kind of how I look at it. Like, my home is your home. You need a place to stay. You need a place to come get away to train or to visit the PI or whatever it may be. Like, I just believe in having an open door policy.
When you first started, the sponsorship game was completely different, right?
Yes.
Now it's, uniform, this and that. But I think with social media, it has also shifted a little bit, with Instagram and whatnot. How would you, like, is it in a good spot now? Or, like the early Fox days, like there was a period where I know guys were making more from sponsorships than their purse.
Yes.
Have we gotten back to that, or is there still more work to be done? How do you feel?
I think the marketing and sponsorship side is doing very well right now. A lot of social media activations have kind of picked up the pace on that, and a lot of brands seeing our sport for what it truly is now, a martial art, are starting to get more behind it, right? I think it's becoming more mainstream. As we're getting on these mainstream channels and platforms, it's constantly helping us to open those new doors. Obviously, those running gun days of the past were fun, right? You're selling the crotch logo or the butt or the front leg, and you're negotiating, and then you're going to the exact size. I mean, I actually I had a plotter and a printer. I used to print those shorts in the spare bedroom at my house.
No way.
Yes, I couldn't afford a printer at the time when I was coming up, so I'd make those shorts in my spare room. Yeah.
And the banners too.
The banners I had to outsource.
You had to outsource. Yeah. Those were fun days. Really, I miss those days.
Yeah.
You still get them a little bit in Bellator, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm curious about this. How would you describe your relationship with other managers? Because I was trying to count off the top of my head. There's maybe like 10 good ones or 10 prominent ones, I should say, in MMA, give or take a few. And one thing that I feel like would do, like if you have a fight, let's say Chito is fighting Aljo, just for the sake of the conversation. What's wrong with like and maybe I'm wrong, please educate me if I'm wrong. Like the manager's talking to you, like, how much are you making? How much? Like, so we know what the market is, right? Because now everything is so secret.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing, or is it better that everyone kind of stays in their lane and you don't talk to the other managers? What's your philosophy on that?
Man, I look at competition as good. The Lakers need the Celtics. USC needs UCLA. Like I love it. They make me better, and I hope that I push them to new heights for themselves. Because in the day, the client wins, right? If the managers are upping their game, the athlete benefits from it. I work with a lot of managers in a very friendly manner. I think there's enough food on the table for everyone to eat. And again, it's about the greater good of the athlete, right? If someone calls me and says, "Hey, I'm working on this deal. What do you think about this, that?" I'll gladly, help them. Because I believe that's what we're here for, is to serve and give. I think managers are servants, and we need to remember that and make sure that we're putting the athlete first.
If a fighter called you up and was like, "Hey, I want you to represent me," is there a process that you go through to determine whether or not you actually want to bring him on board?
Yep.
What is that?
For me, I put character first before talent. When I was young, Errol, and I came in the game at 24, I would chase talent, and talent takes you places sometimes your character's not ready to go to. And I feel like I've had a lot of success betting on high character people. I think two good, perfect examples is Chito Vera and Brandon Moreno. Those aren't the best athletes in the world. They're not. But they're high character, high driven people, and look how far they've gotten.
Right.
And I think if you bet on character, you'll always be successful. And I think it's good to maintain a good culture in my group as well.
Wanted to ask you about a story that happened last year that came out regarding you and your father. I can understand this is a very personal story, and I understand it's still ongoing.
Yeah.
But it seemed like there was an issue between you guys, and it kind of jumped off the page because you're like such a clean cut, like like you hardly do interviews, for goodness sakes. And also hearing father is like, wow, what's going on here? What, if anything, could you tell us about that?
I mean, disagreements among families are always extremely difficult, especially when it involves business and especially when it involves a father and a son, right?
Right.
I'm grateful that things are going in the right direction, and I'm confident, the end of this year we'll have a resolution and be able to move forward in a good manner.
Are you and your dad on speaking? Are you in a good spot or?
Not right now.
Okay.
I think right now the attorneys need to kind of be the intermediaries in resolving the professional issues. And I think that will allow us to kind of maintain that open door for a personal relationship. I think we need to kind of exit ourselves from the business side of things for now.
Do you think this will be resolved soon?
I do, yes.
And not something that will affect your career?
No.
Okay.
No.
Business as usual.
Yeah, even when it had come out, it had been going on for a while. Like, one thing I have is an innate ability to stay focused on the task at hand.
Right. And so now, I mean, you've got like massive fights coming up. It's almost like off the top of my head, excuse me for not like this weekend, how many clients do you have on the UFC card?
4.
4. Golly. Do you ever go through one without a client?
Not in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. And so will you be there?
Yes.
Wow. And then like after that, are you going to Orlando? Like you're going to everything?
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
And you don't get tired of any of this?
I mean, listen, I get tired of traveling. It does wear in my body. I've had to hire people to really make sure that I'm taking care of my health first and foremost and make sure I'm on the up and up with everything. But again, the joy of being there, like being a small brick in someone's success and their foundation is to me is the greatest feeling. Like seeing these fighters make their walks, it's awesome. You know, like Vanessa Demopoulos fights this weekend. You know, what a story she has, right? I mean, to see her continue her career in the UFC is amazing. You know, everyone that I work with, I have a special bond with, and a special, you know, part of their story that really resonates with me.
I talk a lot on the show about fighter pay. Yes. I'm a very pro fighter, as you can imagine. How do you feel about the state of fighter pay? Do you feel like it is fair? Am I completely wrong when I talk about some of these things, or do you think it can get better?
I think, you know, we all would like to make more money in this business, right? And I think fighter pay is increasing. Maybe not at the rate that people would like, but it is on the up and up. And I think that is, you know, the job as us as advocates for those athletes to keep pushing that marker and keep pushing that marker farther and farther and farther to push for growth. And again, I think you're right. You know, if managers communicate and can create open dialogue, it's only going to help the greater good of the athletes.
We had one of your clients, David Taylor, in studio. I asked him, you know, scale of 1 to 10, 4. I thought he was going to give me a better number because earlier in the interview, he was like, I'm thinking about it. What did you think of that number? Because when I heard he signed with you, I was like, oh, this is imminent, right?
Yeah.
Why else? And I know Dave Martin signed Gable Steveson. So, you know, there could be, but was he no-selling me there? What do you think? And I don't want you to refute his number, but like, that would be a big freaking deal, right?
I feel like I'm going to get double-legged by David right now.
I don't need to put you on the hot seat.
Yeah,
but.
I felt like he was underselling that number a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's very interested.
And I would imagine every promotion.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, listening to his interview with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's such a competitor, right? He's like, well, I've accomplished the goals I have. Now he almost needs a new mountain to climb. Like he's, you know, meeting him this weekend for the first time in person, because we've done a few Zooms and a few phone calls. Man, what a class act. What a guy. Like, you see what it takes to be an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah,
like, you see him, you're like, wow, like that's impressive, his body of work.
I would love to see it happen. I would love to see a Chito title fight in 2023.
It will happen.
You think so?
Yeah.
You're guaranteeing it.
I just believe in Chito, man. I don't know what it is about it. In my heart of hearts, like I tell my wife every night, I was like, he's going to be a champion in 2023.
I feel it as well.
I know it. I've always, I like you, but I've always loved you a little bit more because you kind of saw in Chito what I think we saw early on, where a lot of people were always kind of, you know, are you sure? You know, and I'm like, man, he's so green. Like he has such a high ceiling. And I think every fight you've seen that growth and that improvement. I mean, and he's got such a focus. Like I texted him last Wednesday night, I was like, hey, where are you? Let's hang out. And he sent me a video of him running Central Park like at 10 p.m. at night. He said, winning a world title.
Wow.
And I thought, man, never misses, right? Like, he's always like...
he's a legend. I've gotten those texts before, him running texts.
Yeah.
And I told him one time, like, I'm going to post this. I'm going to share this when you win the title.
Yeah.
I love everything about him. How nervous do you get, though? Because, like, you develop relationships. You know, when DC fought Stipe for the second time, I felt sick to my stomach.
I bet.
You have a much closer relationship with these guys. How are you not like throwing up before these fights?
I was telling David Taylor this and his wife, because they asked me, and I said, hey, when you watch fights, it's intense. When you know that person, it takes it to the next level. Like I get sick to my stomach. Like when I wear my Whoop, it like records it like I just ran 6 miles. Like it's like a 13.1 on it. And I'm like, my heart's racing. I'm sick. I mean, The answer to your question, Eric, I think when that feeling goes away, it's time for me to walk. I think you should only do things in life that matter that much. It should matter that much, right? Like you should, I mean, someone that you represent is going out there and fighting another person. Like you need to care that much.
Well, I love everything you're doing. I wish you continued success.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff.
Yeah.
And please give Ed a raise. I mean, the guy is relentless. He never sleeps. I don't even know where he lives. Where does he live?
In Canada. He's amazing.
In Canada.
He's amazing.
That's fellow Canadian.
There's the connection.
There's the kinship.
See? Yeah.
No, I know. No, it's great. And the roster speaks for itself. So continued success. Thank you for coming in. And good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
There he is, Jason House, headman over at Iridium Sports Agency, doing incredible things. Over 300 clients